welcome to Above Replacement Radio. I am your host, Chris Gianta. You know what Christy Mathewson wasn't worried about? SIERA. When you're thinking about Pedro Siriaco, I mean, the only one that can compete is maybe Hannes Wagner's 1908 season. Over there on the other side of the screen is Daniel Kern.
Like, if we just clip together every time we've talked about him on other people's profiles, we've done a Mickey Cochran episode.
I can't get past Rabbit Marinville. It's not necessarily Hall of Fame. It's not necessarily above average, but we can guarantee you we are better than just the standard replacement level college sophomore.
And welcome to Above Replacement Radio, where we're talking baseball kind of whenever. I'm your host, Chris Gianta. Over there on the other side of the screen is Daniel Kern. How you doing, Daniel?
Chris, I'm doing well. We got a lot to get into today, so I will give you the floor here. You and we went to Cooperstown on Tuesday. It was your first Cooperstown experience, so I wanted to let you give out your thoughts on seeing Cooperstown for the first time. So I will give you the floor.
Yeah, I mean, it was everything I expected. You know, we really we covered it all, and visited. Got to every plaque pretty much that we wanted to get to, and I think the biggest surprise and my favorite part was the 19th century baseball section that they had on that second floor. I'm pretty sure that was something else. Like the baseballs they had from that era, the uniforms, and what else? Yeah, baseballs, uniforms. They had these, the tickets that they had and the season passes that they had from that era. Yeah, that was particularly something else.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was a great time. I wanted to tell this story on the program, but my favorite part of the entire trip was we were on the third floor of the building, and as you enter one of the rooms on the third floor, there's this little screen exhibit that I've been to the Hall of Fame probably between 5 and 10 times. It has never been open. It was open this time, so I went immediately right to it, and it was showing these little videos of the old stadiums, and we were watching this video about Comiskey Park, and there was some kid, probably this 10-year-old kid that was just standing there with us watching, and Chris turns to him and he goes, "You know how the All-Star game's tonight? The first All-Star game was held here at Comiskey Park in 1933." And it was such a funny moment because I would expect nothing less from Chris to just start dropping some facts about the first All-Star game, some random 10-year-old.
Yeah, I mean,
he walked away right after. He was not very amused.
I felt like he needed to know that, and I don't know, he didn't.
Yeah.
He didn't take that information. I bet he didn't tell anybody, but it wasn't included in the virtual tour of the stadium, which was surprising to me. I think that's kind of a big deal that they just never got into.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a funny moment. But yeah, I could not say it. There were a lot of things I wanted to say to just random people walking around, just random information that I knew about that the average person doesn't know about.
Chris was contemplating going over to the information desk and being like, why in John Montgomery Ward's plaque did you not include that he created the first player union?
Yeah, right.
Like the random 30-year-old who's working there is just gonna be like, my bad, I'm sorry.
Yeah, we didn't think this through when he was inducted in the 1960s. Yeah, so yeah, the Hall of Fame was great. Yeah, everything I expected. And yeah, looking forward to going back whenever that's a possibility. Absolutely. Or whenever that comes up. But yeah, we were also there to see the All-Star game well, not at Cooperstown, but I was in upstate New York because we were gonna watch All-Star Game festivities. Home Run Derby, Pete Alonso, repeat champion. I guess there were some surprises out of that derby.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of it felt underwhelming, and I think most of it has to do with the fact that Matt Olson and Joey Gallo both lost in the first round. Um, Shohei versus Soto was great. That was awesome. It was Jock versus Vlad style, where it went into a swing off. Soto went 3 for 3 in his round, so it would have been tough for Shohei to beat that. But I mean, everything about it was great.
Yeah,
Other than that,
right. Yeah, in the first round, all the higher seeds, or although technically, yeah, lower seeds, uh, won. It was five, six, seven, eight, all won, and then it was Alonso versus Soto, and then Mancini versus Story, and
yep.
yeah, like Alonso just completely dominated the entire time, and a lot of it had to just do with his pitcher putting it in the same spot every single time.
Yeah, when Mancini won the last round, there was not one single pitch in like his preferred zone. Every single pitch that Alonso got throughout the entire night was right there. You could visibly tell that every single person was gassed past the first round. Even Shohei in the and Soto in like the tiebreaker rounds. Like Pete Alonso did not look phased at all, and it was pretty obvious from the second he started against Soto that he was winning the whole thing again.
Yeah, I would imagine that's probably because he wasn't taking full hacks,
Hmm.
and just I remember when Giancarlo Stanton won the home run derby, he was saying like he was taking 80% swings and getting the ball out at a consistent rate, and that's kind of what you need to do.
Hmm.
Uh, but yeah, like it just yeah, Alonso. It was Alonso from the beginning to the end, and he was able to take it home. And yeah, it's a funny thing. He's made more. He's made more from the home run derby than he's made in salary earnings from the
Yeah.
Mets so far.
Exactly. He's made 2 million from the derbies, and I think like 1.4 million total from the Mets.
Yep, at least during his MLB career,
Hmm.
doesn't include his draft bonus. But yeah, that's pretty funny.
Also, shout out to Trey Mancini as well. Uh, cancer survivor, went through the first 2 rounds, did very well in the finals too. I think he had 22 in the finals, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, both Vlad and Mancini hit 22 in the finals against Alonso.
Yeah,
Wow, that's pretty interesting. And that was kind of the home run derby. Uh, Shohei hit 6 home runs that were 500 feet. Soto hit one 520. That was the high of the night.
yeah,
Lot of absolute tanks in that derby.
yep. The elevation definitely brought out the home run distances,
Yeah,
the
it did.
extended home run distances. But yeah, Pete Alonso won that. We didn't see like Gallo was probably the most disappointing performance because I think he only got 19 or something like that,
Yeah. Yep.
and he's someone who's right up there in the barrels and uh, exit velocity leaderboards. And Brian Kenny said it before the broadcast. He was like, "This is the only guy that's been playing home run derby his entire career," but that didn't work out. That was kind of disappointing. But yeah, I think that's all for the home run derby All Star game. There wasn't not really much to observe there with the All
Yeah,
Star
I mean
game.
that was kind of it. The All Star game. I mean Shohei was obviously awesome. The whole the whole event felt like it was centered around Shohei Otani, and I'm not opposed to that. I love it. I mean like this is, Shohei Otani's probably the best thing to happen to the sport in our lifetime. So you got to run with this. Like we talk all about MLB marketing their players. It would be kind of wrong if we were like, all right, enough with the Shohei Ohtani stuff. No, I'm all in on this. And I mean, there was also like a side of Vlad because Vlad won the MVP. He had a moonshot off of Corbin Burns. Um, that was probably the highlight of the All Star game was Vlad just hitting an absolute tank.
Yeah, it was that was a long one for
Mhm.
sure. And it looked like it was further than 468 feet too.
Off the
Uh,
bat, it was perfect. They were interviewing Tatis when it happened. Like it was the perfect moment.
yeah,
The only thing that was bad was when they mic'd up Xander Bogaerts for his at bat, and he said 3 words total.
yeah. I think on the
What were they thinking there?
I don't know. Yeah,
And then there was Liam Hendricks mic'd up where he didn't know he was live, and he was swearing after every pitch.
yep.
That was good.
That was a good time.
Yeah, I mean, what a. I think like by the way, did you see the ratings too?
No.
It did like the All Star game peaked I think at like 9 million viewers, and it crushed the NBA All Star game and the most recent Pro Bowl.
Oh, that's good to hear.
Yeah, I mean, it's a shame that baseball is a dying sport that all the analytics nerds are ruining.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's I think
Most watched first half ever on MLB TV. The 10 most watched days, the 4 most watched games. Percentages all up from 2020, barring there might be a bit of an asterisk there, but regardless, more people are watching baseball. It's growing, and also like the MLB partnering with the Players Alliance was also huge. That came out of the weekend. That was big, or
Yep.
out of the week, I should say. That was big. Yeah, baseball's in a very good spot, and I think that's the takeaway from this year's All Star game, and probably every All Star game. But I mean, I think this one in particular, it really showed that we're in good hands.
Yeah, and yeah, you're right that the All-Star game seemed very centered around Otani. It was basically the Otani game
Yeah.
because
I mean,
like
like every player in the press conference was like, "Well, I mean, come on, how about Otani?" Though, like, I know that you're doing great and you're here, but I mean, how about Otani?
right, yeah, they're like
How come you're not out there doing both?
how does it feel to be right exactly? Why aren't you doing both?
You're a great hitter, but you're basically half the player that Shohei Otani is, and you're not even as good of a hitter.
Yeah, you have a lower OPS than Otani, and you have 67 less innings. Weird. Why is that the case? Why are you the way that you are? Uh, yeah, it was completely centered around him, and it was great. I mean, it's the year, it's the year of Otani, and
Mhm.
probably this is not going to be the last year where it's like this.
I hope
Most
not.
likely, hopefully not. Uh, so
Okay, wait, let me ask you this: like even this can go beyond Otani. This can be Vlad. This can be Tatis, Acuna, Soto. Like I was thinking about this yesterday with what's been going on over the last couple months. How close do you think we are to someone not named Mike Trout being the best player in baseball?
um, I mean that's a good question. I think what's interesting is I think Shohei Ohtani has become the face of baseball in a few short months. Because
Well, but
I
we've
mean,
we've we've known for a while face of baseball doesn't equal best player.
yeah. So I think he's gotten on that train. I mean, like it's it's interesting. I think Shohei Ohtani has the greatest chance of taking that crown. And we'll see how Mike Trout does post injury. I
Hmm.
assume he'll do just as good as he was doing, but I think I think that debate is going to be taking place during this upcoming off season,
Yep.
and I think if Shohei is able to do what he's doing this year, next year, I think Shohei takes the crown. In terms of other players, they're probably going to have to do more on offense, considering Mike Trout is probably going to have the same offensive production. So maybe it's a thing where, like, yeah, in order to take the crown for Mike Trout, you have to have a guy who does similar numbers offensively to Mike Trout and also pitches. That might be what you have to do.
Yeah. So you don't see like Tatis surpassing him anytime soon?
Um, Actually, Tatis maybe because of the base running and the defense, even though he's had a bad defensive year. But I think yeah, I
I would
did
say
say
defense, like, as much as we don't use the eye test, like defense is really more about the flashy plays. Like that's how most people get evaluated, it seems.
right.
And I think that the eye test is a little more acceptable on defense than it is on offense because like there is kind of a lack of reliable defensive metrics. Like, outs above average, no one, it's only been around for a couple of years. We can only go back to 2015. Um, UZR, defensive run saved. There's everything has its flaws, so I think that's probably uh why the eye test is a little more uh acceptable, I guess.
Yeah,
But
there's nothing there's nothing that I rely on that contributes to like wins above replacement in terms of defense. Like I only look at outs above average, but that's not included in how they're uh how much wins above replacement they have.
mhm.
But I think I think someone who can take that crown in the next year is Shohei Ohtani. But I could see like Tatis being considered uh better than Trout in maybe 2023. But I
Mhm.
think someone who could take that crown in 2022 is Shohei. What do you think about that?
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. Like I think the reason why Mike Trout has been the best player for so long is because he's been doing it for so long. Like players have had better years than Mike Trout. We don't consider them better than Mike Trout.
Mm,
Mookie Betts was better in 2018. You could argue Christian Yelich and Cody Bellinger were better in 2019. We weren't saying that they were better players overall. You know, there you do have to do it for a bit of a longer period of time. You have to have a couple better years than Trout in a row, I'd say.
yeah,
Tatis had the better year last year, probably. He's gonna have the better year this year. I'd say if he blows him out of the water in 2022, then yeah, we could be looking at Tatis being a better player than Trout.
right. Yeah, and when I look at um when I think about like best players in baseball, I usually think about the past 2 years. So
Hmm.
who like a 2 year stretch. I usually think about I wasn't thinking I wasn't thinking Betts was better than Trout based on 2018. I wasn't thinking Harper was better than Trout based on 2015 because also Trout. When Betts won MVP, Trout was second in that
Yep.
MVP vote.
And when
So
Harper won MVP, Trout was also second in his MVP vote.
yeah, so it's tough to do, but yeah, I mean, I could see someone taking over that crown in 2022, and I feel like Trout's had that crown since like 2013,
2013,
probably.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'd say 2014 because after 2013, I probably would have said Miguel Cabrera.
Yep.
He was coming off back-to-back triple crown threats at least. I think the only thing that stopped him from winning it in 2013 was Chris Davis hitting 53 homers.
Mhm.
I'd say 2014. That was the first year that he won MVP. Um, but yeah, you could probably argue 2012, 2013 as well.
Yeah. So nonetheless, he's had this for well over half a decade.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah. All right. Well, now we can get into the our last trade deadline breakdown
Yep.
of each team. Um, so we've done the AL West and NL West. We've done the AL Central and the NL Central, and now we have the NL East and AL East to go over. So we'll start from bottom to top in the NL, even though they're not the worst team out of these 10 teams. We'll start with the Miami Marlins. What do you got on Miami?
This team is very weird because I'd say the Marlins are the best last place team I've ever seen.
Yeah, there's a solid argument there.
I think like I can't picture a team. I mean, positive run differential, one of the best run differentials in the division. and they're in last place. And when you look around the roster, like they are pretty solid. Like their bullpen is very good. Their starting rotation is strong, even without Sixto. Their lineup could definitely use a bit of a tweak here and there, but that they have to be in last place for a reason. And honestly, this team is in very good shape going forward. They only, their only free agents is coming off season. The only one that really matters is Starling Marte. I would hope that Kim Ng uh, deals out an extension to him going forward, because realistically, I mean, I think you can give Starling Marte like a 3-year deal for maybe like 15 mil a year, probably a little more, but I don't know. I mean, I don't think you need to really roll out the massive money truck for Starling Marte.
Right.
And he's
Yeah.
been one of the better players in the league the past couple of years. Um, and also Yimi Garcia is a free agent. Maybe that's someone you look to re-sign. He was great in 2020. I'd say if you're going to trade anybody, I'd say trade Richard Blyer. He's 34 years old, going into R3 this offseason. He got a little bit of a late start to his career. He's going to be a free agent after 2022. Like I said, he's 34 years old. He's been performing very well this year, and that's a guy that could probably do well on another team. And I think he's replaceable on the Marlins. He's just another reliever, which they have a good amount of that are performing well. So um, yeah, I'd say if you're gonna trade anyone, trade Richard Blyer.
Right. Yeah, I mean, going on the Marlins being like the best last place team ever. I mean, how many last place teams would be top 7 in the MLB in starter ERA? That's
Yeah,
where the Marlins are. They're 7th
yeah,
in starter ERA. They have
and they don't have Sixto. Like they have Alcantara, Lopez. You have Trevor Rogers, who's been breaking out this year, and then you have eventually Sixto. And I mean, none of those guys have entered ARB yet, which is amazing.
all of them are 25 or younger. I mean, I could
Mm-hmm.
see the Marlins rotation being the best in baseball by 2023,
2023. Yeah.
2024.
Yep.
Like that is, you have guys that are already established as very good pitchers in their age 23, 24, 25 seasons.
Yeah.
And
Also, Miguel Rojas has a vesting option at the end of the year. I've tried looking it up. I don't know what it is, but he's also on the record saying he wants to be a Marlin for life. So I see and he's 32. You could probably, if he's on the record saying that, you could probably get him for less than, I'd say, 7 mil a year.
yeah, right. He's not someone who's too valuable.
Yeah. Adam Duvall also has a mutual option. I would say hop on that. He's a power hitter who can be very useful. He's your 3 hitter going forward probably.
Yeah. My takeaway with the Marlins was, yeah, you leave you leave all the starters alone. You look at dealing out bullpen arms like Garcia, even Dylan Floro or Richard Blyer. Yeah, Richard Blyer. He's Richard Blyer is an interesting pitcher. He's got one of the highest ground ball rates out there. And 2.43 ERA on the year. And yeah, I think teams in general would be really looking for someone like that. He's similar to like a Victor Gonzalez or Adam Kolarek of the Dodgers, or formerly of the Dodgers.
That's right.
Just a lefty who can get you ground balls. And I wouldn't imagine he's some type of specialist towards only lefties. I can probably look at his splits from this year. But yeah, he could be very valuable for a playoff team coming up. I mean, the first team I always think of just for personal concerns is the Red Sox, and I'm thinking like, who do they have? What lefty arms do they have? I mean, they got Darwinzon Hernandez, but he's more of a strikeout pitcher. I think a team like the Red Sox might be able to use someone like him who pitches to contact, doesn't necessarily live on the strikeouts or walks. Let's look at his splits. Right versus right-handed batters and left-handed batters. He's a little better against the left-handed batters. Left-handed batters have a 512 OPS. Right-handed batters have a 619 OPS against him, which is still very good. But yeah, I think Blyer could be very, very valuable for someone, and I think the Marlins should take advantage of what he's been doing. They've already traded Adam Simber, so they already did that. Yeah, I'm thinking you try to get what you can out of Yimi Garcia, Dylan Floro, and Richard Blyer. I don't know what they'll do with Starling Marte. I think since Marte has been struggling as of late, you keep him because his value is just tumbling downward. He's just been on a major slump as of late, so I think you just kind of hold on to him. And yeah, like you said, Duvall might be able to help another team out. But
Yeah.
anything more on the Marlins?
I think that's about it. I'd say you're in an interesting spot where you don't necessarily have to sell because you have a very good team, even though you're in last. Like, this is a team with brighter roads ahead. I would argue by next season, if they have a good offseason, we could be looking at them as the favorites in this division.
Yeah, there's a very strong possibility. And one guy I forgot to mention, Jesus Aguilar. I think maybe they can.
He's a free agent after 2022, but he's your 3-hitter. Like, if you're gonna compete next year, I wouldn't trade your 3-hitter.
Yeah, it's just a question of whether they compete or not. Leader in National League leader in RBI this year.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of funny how that works out. A guy with an 800 OPS.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that does it for the Marlins. Now we get into the next National League East team to talk about, the Washington Nationals. There's one glaring guy you can look at there.
Yeah. This team has a lot of free agents, mostly because they signed a lot of one-year deals last offseason. Obviously, Max Scherzer. You're probably going to trade him, realistically. The end of his 7-year, $210 million contract is coming up. We'll talk about Max Scherzer's deal eventually, but that's one of the big contracts that works out. At this point, you might just take the mutual option on Kyle Schwarber because he's been going off this year even with the injury. Brad Hand is a free agent. Max Scherzer is a free agent. Starlin Castro, Daniel Hudson, Yan Gomes, John Lester, Alex Avila, Josh Harrison, Ryan Zimmerman, Jordy Mercer, Luis Avian. I don't really know how many of those people are trade worthy. I'd say if anyone, maybe Castro. Anyone needs a second baseman.
Yeah, I was thinking Brad Hand, even though
Brad Hand.
Hand is elected as savant, bit of a volcano. His ERA is in the mid 2s, but his expected ERA is in the 4s. So I don't know if teams will be cautious or not with that. I remember when the biggest example of someone who was, not good peripherally, but extremely good, with on the field stats was Shane Green 2 years ago. And I don't think the Braves had to give that much for a guy who had an ERA in the 1s, just because, it didn't look very sustainable, especially based on peripheral statistics. So that might be a situation with Hand where the Nationals aren't going to be able to get a great prospect out of that, but nonetheless, they should see what's out there for him. Especially if you're not going to be a playoff team, which it's looking like that's not the case, especially when you have your best bat pretty much, or not your best bat, but Kyle Schwarber, not in the lineup just now. So yeah, that's what they should be looking at. Anything more on the Nationals?
Here's something. I gotta adjust my mic here a little bit. Trey Turner is a Super 2, and he's going into his 4th year of arbitration this coming off season. So, do we see a trade of Trey Turner in the off season? I don't think it happens now. do we see, a team like capitalizing on a player's value with 1 year left in his deal?
That's the problem. I mean, if they're not gonna have Scherzer next year, I mean, this is a time where we talk about the Nationals potentially rebuilding. I mean, I think 2019 was probably their last run with their core, even without Harper. But that was their last run with, Scherzer, Strasburg, Rendon, and but I mean, I guess they did have some guys with control, but that was kind of their last hurrah, maybe, and maybe it's time to
Yeah,
rebuild.
that's certainly.
Uh, it might be. I mean, it's very weird to tell Juan Soto that, especially because sooner than later, like I think he's ARB eligible next. I know he's already gone through his first year of ARB, and he's a Super 2, so he's got control until 2025. But I mean, depending on how quick that rebuild goes, like you might be pushing Juan Soto away sooner than later.
Yeah, which is pretty
That's the thing to
unfortunate.
worry about because you do have to figure out what to do there. The Nationals are in a very weird spot because I was very down on them this year and they've kind of surprised me a little bit, but I don't know what I really think of them going forward because Steven Strasburg can't stay on the field. Uh, Victor Robles hasn't necessarily developed like he was supposed to. Josh Bell isn't doing what I hoped he would do. I had him having a 40 home run season. Hand up, that one's on me. That's not happening. Patrick Corbin has blown up in their faces. Like a lot of things have gone wrong on the field, and it leaves them in a tough spot right now.
Yeah, all those factors are reasons why they're under 500 this year. I think you would have to convince Soto, if you trade Scherzer, they're going to get. I would hope for them that they get a very good prospect or a series of very good prospects out of that. And if they trade Trey Turner, same thing. I mean, those are two extremely valuable assets to have. So you have to get what you can out of those players. So you'd have to convince, this is in a few years we're gonna have a
But
very good roster.
But the Nationals are paying Max Scherzer 42 mil this year. That's obviously 42 mil that's coming off the books. Uh, Fortunately, it looks like up until 2024, they're not gonna have to increase salaries to any of the big contracts they have. Steven Strasburg's deal is literally just 35 mil every year. Then Patrick Corbin's is 24 mil, 23, 24, and then 35. So up until 2024, you don't have a big increase. So maybe you look towards a Trey Turner extension. I think that's what they're gonna do. I think they're at least going to try for a Trey Turner extension. Uh, so yeah, they're probably. I don't think they trade him in the offseason. Now that I said that, I think if they trade him, it would be at next year's deadline. If they don't extend him and they're not contending,
Right. Yeah, I think that would probably make sense. Yeah, I mean, the Nationals' future is pretty much up in the air. I mean, they kind of treaded water in the offseason with a series of 1 year deals, like what they got with Kyle Schwarber and trading for Josh Bell and signing Brad Hand.
John
It was,
Lester.
they kind of treaded water in this offseason. Seeing where they're at this season, it's not great, especially considering Strasburg's injury. So, yeah, future is kind of up in the air for the Nationals. And speaking of teams where their future might be a little up in the air, the Atlanta Braves. What are we thinking about this team? I mean, we talked about them a little bit last episode.
They're buying. They're still going for it, which I respect. They traded for Jock Peterson last night. He's probably a rental deal. He is a mutual option. I think depending on how he plays in Atlanta, we'll see if that gets picked up or not. But you're gonna have Acuna back next year. If anything, you could have Peterson take Ozuna's spot in the outfield, uh, barring the potential DH. Who knows what's gonna happen there? But I mean, this team's buying. Like, good for them. Like, they're still going for it.
Yeah, they did get Peterson. I could see a situation where if the Braves struggle in the next 2 weeks and are further behind in the National League East race, where maybe they change their mind and trade some pieces off, from their major league roster. I think the only guy, if they were to sell, that they could get something out of would be Charlie Morton.
Yeah, I don't think they. I mean, they're not trading Freeman.
Yeah, they're not going to trade Freeman.
Yeah.
They have to focus on re-signing him this offseason.
This is a team. Let me see. Their rotation on. I mean, they've been better than they were at the start of the season. Their bullpen is very, eh. I mean, they have what? Who do they have in that bullpen? It's
They
like
got
Shane
Will Smith,
Green. They got Will Smith. They have
AJ
Luke Jackson,
AJ
AJ
Minter.
Minter, Chris Martin, Tyler Matzik. Their bullpen overall has a 4.58 ERA on the season. They have a 4.21 FIP and a 4.40 xFIP, which is, obviously it shows they've been getting unlucky, but still, I mean, the 4.21 FIP isn't by any means great.
Right.
That's a bit of an issue. The lineup, I mean, the lineup's gone through a lot this year. Obviously Acuna's hurt. Ozuna is done. Travis d'Arnaud got hurt, and he's done for the year. Um, they have a depleted lineup, and that's why they got to run out Ire Andrianza. That's why they got to run out Guillermo Heredia. That's why they got to run out uh, Abraham Almonte. Like this team is very clearly not what it's supposed to be. Um,
Yeah, they've gotten extremely unlucky.
I
Even
don't know.
on
I really don't see them doing much because they've already, like I just mentioned, they've already patched up some of the holes that they have. They got Peterson to replace Acuna. They have Abraham Almonte uh to replace Ozuna. Who do they have catching? Do they have William Contreras? That's probably what
yeah,
they're gonna run. They're gonna run with William Contreras because he's young. Which I get that. Um, they also have Kevin Smith, who they purchased from the Rays. Yeah, this is not a very good look for the team right now.
yeah, they've been extremely unlucky this year. They've had injury and just performance issues from guys on the starting staff. Max Fried is not what he was in 2020. Uh, you know, they expected to have Mike Soroka back this year. Unfortunately, that's been a disaster with his Achilles. So that's someone you expected to have back, but he's not. He's not back. And yeah, like those are two of the top starters you expected to have there, and they're not there. It's just been an incredibly unlucky year from Atlanta. And, I don't know if the front office is going to base a lot of this year's performance on how they handle, their future. But, I don't see much happening this year for the Braves at the trade deadline, unless maybe they get a bullpen arm or two.
Yeah, it might just be that a bullpen armor too, like you mentioned. I don't see it being like I don't know who's the biggest name reliever out there.
I mean, the biggest name, Kimbrel probably.
Yeah, I don't see them doing that. I mean, the reunion, cool. I don't see it happening.
Right,
I don't. I think it's like a couple like band aids,
right.
essentially.
Yeah. Nothing too crazy. All right. Now we can get into the Philadelphia Phillies. I think my question on the Phillies is how serious are they about this year? I think that it all depends on that, because I think their holes
Yeah.
are kind of obvious, but how serious are they?
They could use. I mean, I will say, obviously they need bullpen. We all know that, but I will say Ranger Suarez has come up big for them this year. He's kind of the closer now. He had a 7-out save in the last day of the first half against the Red Sox. He's an 0.77 ERA. Left 25-year-old left-hander. He has emerged this year big time out of the system. But yeah, they still need bullpen. Jose Alvarado hasn't exactly cut it. Archie Bradley, he's been all right. Same with Hector Neris, but it's still a problem. The Phillies have the 27th highest bullpen wins above replacement according to Fangraphs this year. They have negative point 0.1. It's an issue.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of surprising that they've been able to that they're still in a playoff race, given their offense is also underperforming. I mean, they have a team OPS plus of 98. That's obviously below average. They haven't got what you would expect out of guys like Didi Gregorius or Alec Boehm. There hasn't
Yeah.
been any major, positive performances from the Phillies lineup outside of maybe Bryce Harper. And yeah, I mean, they've had really
Well, I
one
mean,
very
McCutcheon's been pretty good.
yeah, he's been good.
I think the lineup, like maybe the lineup could use a couple touches, but like I'd say if they keep the lineup as is, it's not the end of the world. But if they keep, Zach Wheeler can't carry the whole rotation. Aaron Nola's been struggling, and now I believe he's on the COVID IL. Uh, Matt Moore, that blew up in my face. That was bad. That was very ugly on my part. And then Zach Eflin and Vince Velasquez. Eflin's been decent, but that's not enough.
Yeah, Eflin's been good, but I mean, Zach Wheeler's really been the only very good starter. I mean, like there's Wheeler and Eflin are the only starters of the five that have an ERA plus above 100, and Eflin's is only 101. So
Yeah.
it's mostly Wheeler. The holes that they have are pretty obvious. Is in the pitching staff, on both sides of the pitching staff, in the bullpen and in the starting rotation. So I mean, it's a question of how serious are the Phillies? Are they gonna?
Because
Are they willing to drop some? I mean, I don't know how if their farm system is even good enough to drop heavy prospects to uh, get some big name starter or big name reliever. I don't know.
Yeah, you're right. They're 3.5 games back of the Mets. I mean, this team realistically could go places.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's the unique situation of the NL East. No one's been great and no one's broken out quite yet. I think the Mets have been doing kind of what you would expect them to do with the additions they made, but they have
They just
not.
happen to be in a depleted division. Yeah.
Yeah, normally they would be a second place team looking at the wild card, but they are leading that division. So, it. I know the Phillies are now run by Dave Dombrowski, so if they have good prospects to get rid of, he would not be afraid to do that. But also, as Red Sox fans, we know Dave Dombrowski did not believe in the 2019 team, which is why he didn't do anything at the 2019 trade deadline. And
Yeah.
in reflection, that was the correct thing to do. Maybe that's a thing that he does with maybe that's something he does with the 2021 Phillies. And maybe it depends on if he believes in them, if he believes he can win that they can win that division, or if he doesn't believe that.
Hmm.
That's
We kind of got to run through the rest of these teams.
yeah, that's what you need to know about the Phillies. Now we get to the NL East leading New York Mets.
At full health, this lineup is really good. They just haven't been at full health. Almost everyone is back except for JD Davis, but right now, I mean, Nimmo, Lindor, Smith, Alonso, McNeil, Conforto, VR, McCann. Like this lineup is kind of complete right now.
Yeah, I mean, they don't really have like statistically. If you look, you could say maybe we could have some improvement at second base, but yeah, McNeil hasn't been exactly healthy. But I mean, I guess you could put him in the outfield if you wanted to get a second baseman. Um, yeah, I mean, yeah, it's just been an unhealthy lineup. I think what they could use, I guess, is bullpen depth.
Yeah.
They have a good closer in Edwin Diaz, who is 19 for 21 in save opportunities, has a 1.89 FIP. But outside of that, it's nothing too great. I believe they are, I don't know if I can go back and get the number, but I think they were 13th or 14th in team reliever ERA, which it's a sign that they need some bullpen depth outside of Edwin Diaz to just support him. So I think that's something they can look at.
I mean, honestly, if JD Davis is not going to come back, like the Mets are in a situation where, why not just go out and get a big name like a Chris Bryant?
Yeah, Chris Bryant, exactly.
Like, why not? I mean, you have the pieces to do it. It would make this team legit, and I mean, you could still, he can be replaceable next year when he's gone if you don't re-sign him. And this is the first year of Steve. If Steve Cohen really wanted to make a big first impression, like, go for it. Go get Chris Bryant and go win a World Series.
Right, exactly. I did put down 3 potential names that they could go out and potentially get for at the trade deadline in terms of bats they could get, especially you could arguably get Frazier with the struggling second base and outfield situation because Frazier can do both. You can get Chris Bryant, as JD Davis has not been able to play this year really, and they got Jonathan VR over there, and you could potentially get Joey Gallo, especially with the struggling outfield. I mean, you look at not a single outfield spot outside of Brandon Nimmo, who's played 31 games, has an OPS plus of 100 or better. Everyone's been below average. So I think they could get someone. They could also get an outfield bat like Gallo, and I'm pretty sure Jason Stark in one of his articles on The Athletic mentioned that I think the Mets were one of the most rumored teams looking at Gallo. So that's a situation, we've attached Gallo to a lot of teams that could use him, but the Mets might be an actual realistic option.
Yeah.
All right. So that does it for the Mets. I think, bullpen depth and potential bats are what they could use to improve their chances in the playoffs if they do in fact get there. All right, now we go to the bottom of the American League East with the Baltimore Orioles, who have been underrated in how bad they've been.
Yeah.
They've been right down there with the Arizona Diamondbacks. But yeah, I mean, I don't know what you can do with the Orioles.
I don't either.
There's one option I look at. I think you can see what's out there for Trey Mancini. I think I don't know how. I think he's either a free agent after this year or after 2022.
After 2022.
And he's someone who's had a pretty good year. He's always been pretty valuable as an offensive player. And I think he's someone a team could use potentially if they miss out on a bigger bat. Yeah, Mancini's got a 791 OPS. It's not quite what it was earlier in the year, but he's a free agent after 2022. Obviously, the Orioles aren't going to be competing in 2022, so yeah, I mean, and I don't think it would be something he would take personally. I mean, I know he's been positively received in Baltimore after his comeback, but it probably would be even better for him if he was given to a competitive team.
I think I may have mentioned this on the show, but I'd say someone who you can maybe try to get some names for. I don't really know how much you could actually get from him, but maybe Pedro Severino. He's a free agent after 2023. He's currently in his age, I believe he just turned 28. So he's going to be entering his 30s. I don't know how much he's really got left in him, but if a team is in any sort of need for a catcher, I'd say maybe you go out and get Pedro Severino. I'm trying to look at what teams would need that. Actually, the Orioles have the worst production out of catchers this year, so that's not great. I mean, Atlanta. I mean, if Atlanta's really this serious about buying, and Travis Darno's out. Maybe that's a guy.
Yep.
Maybe that's what you
Yeah.
do.
There's potential there, but outside of them, not really much. I mean, Cedric Mullins is under control through 2025, so I think that's someone you keep around. You don't sell on him immediately, given that he has 4 more years with the team after this year. So yeah, I think you keep him around. And
Mm-hmm.
I mean, John Means is injured right now, so I don't know if teams would be digging in to get him. So yeah, I mean, yeah, out of their bullpen, I'm not sure. Tanner Scott has a 2.78 ERA, but only 26. He's probably got a lot of team control. Yeah, not too much out there. No big names from the Orioles that could be traded. Do we want to move on to the Toronto Blue Jays?
Let's do it. Starting pitching. Yeah, and a couple bullpen arms, but the lineup is where it needs to be. Um, yeah, I mean, you need to get starting pitching. I mentioned Michael Pineda on the last show. I think that's a good option because, he can eat up innings. He can, I think he's not too high of a cost. I think he's perfect. Robbie Ray has exceeded expectations. Shout out to me. Hyun-Jin Ryu's been slumping, but they just go through slumps. Is not that big of a deal. I'd say, yeah, the Blue Jays are a few arms away. Because I think they can still absolutely make the playoffs. And if there's, like you mentioned, if they're serious about it, you go out and get some pitching on both sides.
Yeah, the one thing you need is pitching. Even though they've been surprisingly kind of efficient in the pitching department, their team ERA plus is 112, but I don't know. It's not what you expect. I wouldn't expect. I wouldn't expect
I
it
wouldn't
to
I
be the
wouldn't be that
same.
I wouldn't have that be what stops you from going out and getting pitching.
Yeah, because you look at the names and it's not the
Yeah.
best. And yeah, they've had some bullpen injuries early in the year. Yeah, I think you get some bullpen arms. You get a starter. I mean, I don't know. You're definitely not going to get one of the more high profile guys, probably, unless it's maybe someone with control through next year. Um, then maybe you get one of the bigger guys because your chances of competing next year are larger, especially in the wild card and potentially division. So yeah, Blue Jays is pretty simple. You need pitching. That's kind of been the theme for the last couple of years with Toronto, if you can call them Toronto at this point. All right, now the Yankees, probably the
Yeah.
biggest story at the trade deadline.
Uh, Pretty obvious. I mean, the Yankees, they're World Series of bust. They're a big market team. Go out and get Joey Gallo. Simple as that.
Yeah,
That's I think there's also some, touches that can be made to the starting rotation. None of them have to be major, but if you really want to go out there and make a splash, go get Joey Gallo and have the most free true outcome outfield of all time. Imagine having Judge, Stanton, and Gallo in an outfield.
right. Yeah, I think I agree. The Yankees should go big at this trade deadline.
Yeah, they have
Um,
to.
one a guy I actually started convincing myself was a perfect fit for the Yankees is Adam Frazier,
Mm-hmm.
because he's the Yankees have struggled at second base and in the outfield, and Adam Frazier can help out with both of those. He can play second base and outfield. Um, their regular second baseman this year has been Rougned Odor. Frazier has a 397 on base percentage this year. Odor has a 291 on base percentage this year. Also, Frazier could benefit from the Yankee Stadium home run. Frazier only has 4 home runs this year, but Baseball Savant has what his expected home runs are at each ballpark. So he has 10 expected at Yankee Stadium,
Yeah,
compared to 4 this year. Not saying that he would have 10. Well, he would have 10 if he played every game at Yankee Stadium, but
which
the
is not
Yankees
realistic.
don't play every game at Yankee Stadium, but he would have
let's say
more.
you'd have a couple. Let's say you'd have like 2 extra this year.
Yeah, he'd have some advantages in the slugging department at Yankee Stadium. I think he'd be a very good fit considering their second base and outfield situation. Gallo
Absolutely.
obviously would be a very good fit in that small ballpark, and I think they need another starting pitcher as well outside of Garrett Cole. We did have a segment on how good they were as a rotation, but things have changed a lot in the past couple months.
Surprisingly, you can't go every single start without giving up a run.
Yeah, right.
So,
You can't. Yeah, unfortunately, that's not sustainable.
this I would be worried honestly though, because if this year doesn't work out, you have one more year until Judge, Sanchez, and Chad Green are all free agents. And
Right.
I know the Yankees are, the Yankees, but do you really sign them re-signing Judge and Sanchez?
Um. No, I mean,
Because Judge is going to ask for a lot, and he's probably going to get a lot from somebody. Doesn't matter if it's the Yankees, doesn't matter if it's another team, but I mean, do you really see the Yankees, giving a mega deal to Judge and also giving Sanchez probably at least 100 mil?
I mean, I don't know if like how good has Sanchez been. I don't think he.
I mean, he's been surging lately. Okay,
Yeah,
maybe 100 mil is a stretch, but I mean,
yeah,
I'd say the floor would be like 60 mil.
yeah. That especially as a catcher where you don't get offensive production like that from that position.
Hmm.
Uh, Mostly, I'm trying to look at the Yankees roster right here. Sanchez. Oh yeah, Sanchez has been pretty good this year. 785 OPS from the catcher's position. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's been good. Yeah, he's someone that could get a decent amount of money. Um, in the
Um, we'll have to
in
see though.
in that
Because
off
I mean,
season you're talking about.
Stanton and Cole are both, I think, through 2028 or something like that, maybe beyond there.
Yep.
Yeah, that's crazy. Um, yeah, the Yankees are, they're World Series of bust this year, and I mean, go out and get Gallo by all means, but I mean, beyond 2023 is where the question marks are. But we don't need to talk about that yet because it's not 2023.
Yeah, I also think what's unfortunate for them is what were their big prospects have kind of lost value in Davy Garcia and Estevan Florial.
And
I think they've
Clark Schmidt, even like the only big prospect they really have is Jason Dominguez, but I mean, I don't really see him being up by the end of 2023 when Judge and Sanchez are still guaranteed to be there.
yeah, I don't I don't see him being on the trade block either, given
No, 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 no,
his
no.
status. So yeah, that's the Yankees. You kind of have to go big, see what you can, yeah, see what you're able to get with the bats. All right, the Tampa Bay Rays. What are you thinking about them?
Well, I know what I want from them, but I know it's not going to happen.
Um,
I want
was
them to go out and get Nelson Cruz.
right. Yep.
I want them to do it. I don't think they're. I mean, he's 41 years old. He's got a decent contract. He's a rental. Um, you would put him in the Rays lineup, and he's the best hitter in that lineup. And I think that's what the
Yep.
Rays are lacking is having that guy. They have a lot of pretty good hitters. They don't have that guy that you're intentionally walking people, that you're intentionally walking really.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, that would be the obvious choice. Their DH DHs have been underwhelming. I'm trying to look for the exact stats on where their DH ranks are. Um,
I
but
can do that.
it's been pretty underwhelming. I know it when we were searching for teams like the Athletics, they were I think the Rays were like 12th in the AL in DH OPS. So I'm looking to get that now, and yeah, I mean that would be the obvious choice. Yeah, Rays are still 12th in DH OPS in the American League, with the Athletics, Rangers, and Tigers behind them. Not
Why does
the
it say that the Braves have 63 games listed with a DH?
Yeah, I'm just on the splits leaderboards where it's like,
That's odd. Okay.
yeah, I didn't go that direction because it can be anyone that was a DH at one point and like their
Oh,
total
so like,
games.
okay.
So I just
Gotcha.
looked at what they had like at when they were a DH at that time, uh, when they were listed as a DH for that game. Just looking at that. So yeah, the Rays were our 12th in DH OPS, and it would make complete sense to get Nelson Cruz. I think also they should look at some cheap starting pitcher options, given that Tyler Glass now is not going to be returning for a little
Long
bit,
time.
maybe not even for the rest of the season. So I think they should look for someone cheaper. I don't see them going after Kyle Gibson. Kyle Gibson's making close to like 10 million this year, so I don't see that happening. Um, and yeah, I don't know what they would get, but I can't think of a name, but a cheap starting pitcher option. I think the Rays should be looking at, and yeah, the obvious hole is their designated hitter, but
Right.
um, you know, it's expensive to get one of those, especially someone like Nelson Cruz. All right, lastly, the team that is leading the American League East, the Boston Red Sox. What are you thinking about this team?
Uh, what I want. Well, I mentioned going out and getting Robbie Grossman because the Red Sox have the lowest walk rate in the league, and Robbie Grossman walks a lot, and he's also under a 2-year deal. He's in left field, which is that fills the hole that Marwin Gonzalez and Danny Santana have in left field. I don't think they're gonna do that. A, because I don't think the Tigers would give up a guy with multiple years of control in their lineup. And also, they just called up Jaron Duran, who is probably going to take that place anyway. So, uh, the thing that a lot of people have been saying is go out and get Carlos Santana for those same reasons. And then obviously that takes Bobby Dahlbeck's spot out of the lineup, but he's not been exactly what we hoped for. He's still young and he's still got time to grow, and he could learn from Carlos Santana. I'd say that's kind of what people are looking at.
Yeah, Santana is an option. Yeah, and if they have Duran, I guess outfield depth wouldn't be what they're looking for. I think general pitching depth also should be looked at least in the bullpen. I think that's something they should look at because I think um, potentially there's potential for overworking guys like Garrett Whitlock, Matt
Hmm.
Barnes,
Hmm.
uh,
Adam
Darwin,
Ottavino.
Adam Ottavino. Those three main options, I think there's potential to overwork guys like that, especially come playoff time. So I think another reliever would really help with that. And with the starters, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm not too confident in Pavetta, Richards, or Perez starting a playoff game.
I'm
So
not either. I mean, I'd say yeah, definitely get another starter because right now, assuming Sale comes back, you got Sale, Evaldi, Rodriguez, who are the only guys who I somewhat trust.
yeah, and yeah, we trust Erod because he's been unlucky this year. Uh, Sale, and yeah, I mean, you also can't bank on Sale being completely healthy. Uh,
No.
you can't. It's not a 100% guarantee. It's probably. I mean, he's probably going to be healthy. You would imagine, given he's had a good amount of recovery time. But also, I mean, I don't know how many innings he's going to be able to throw. I mean, if he comes back around August, then maybe he'll be able to comfortably start a playoff game. But you never quite know. So, and you definitely won't know come trade deadline time. So yeah, I think another starter should be looked at.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't mind them getting someone who has a decent amount of control too, because you know, someone who could help out the rotation for next year would be nice as well. A Gibson type would be interesting, even though I see a little regression from him,
Hmm.
which would fall into the Red Sox hands if they got him. So
Uh,
yeah, anything
I
more on the
gotta.
Sox?
No, I gotta head out though. So, Chris, you're gonna close the show, and
All
we'll
right.
see you later.
All right. Goodbye to Daniel Curran. We'll see you on Monday for our next edition of Above Replacement Radio. Yeah, Daniel had to head out. I had to start things a little later because there were some people at my house that left that usually leave around 10:15, 10:30. So we started at about 10:15, and Daniel had to head out at around 11:30. Right now it's 11:24, so he had to head out. All right, so now we get into the preview of the weekend ahead. I guess I'll cover both bases, series to watch and pitching matchups to watch. For some reason, a lot of the pitching matchups are still to be determined, oddly enough. But series to watch, nothing. Oh yeah, you got to watch White Sox Astros. See if the White Sox can get vengeance for the Astros sweeping them in 4 games and doing it very easily. So I think that'll be an interesting series to watch. We've talked about the White Sox not doing too well against very good teams. So that's something to watch. White Sox versus Astros. Friday, they've got the Astros have announced McCullers, but the White Sox have not announced anything yet, which is weird given that it already is Friday. I imagine they're throwing their number ones out for the most part to start the series, given the All-Star break has happened. So yeah, White Sox Astros is probably the biggest series to watch. And pitching matchups, it's hard to say because there's a lot of TBDs still, and I'm not scrolling through social media to see who's been announced. So yeah, nothing too great. Tonight you got Kevin Gausman facing the Cardinals, and I believe Gausman had a no-hitter going into the 7th, the last time he faced them. So that's something to watch. And yeah, there's not much out there on who's been announced yet, which is unfortunate. But luckily, I'm not usually put on that task for this show. So what are you going to get out of me? All right, so that does it for Above Replacement Radio, episode 133. We hope you enjoyed this one. If you are listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify and want to watch the conversation as it happens, go to our YouTube channel and subscribe to the YouTube channel. It is called Above Replacement Radio. Also look at the playlist, the history series, the history series, the chronological history series in time. You can go from, if you're interested in the players, you can go from Hannes Wagner to Albert Pujols just as a series on its own. So that'll be that could be a fun option. Also, if you want to follow us on social media, follow me on Twitter at Chris_Gianta and follow Daniel on both Twitter and Instagram at Daniel_Curran, and follow the show Instagram at Above Replacement Radio for all the show needs. So we hope you enjoyed this one, and we hope to see you on Monday, where we are talking all the happenings in Major League Baseball. We will see you then.
This conversation is over.